Well, tomorrow's the Super Bowl, and in my lifetime, I've watched probably every one, and a lot of times it's been about the food. Sometimes it's about the commercials, which it still will be for me. The Budweiser hitch, I'm just saying. But anyways, I've now learned that I can make really great tasting food that's just a little bit healthier, and I'm on a healthy journey, so that's what I'm gonna do. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make a shrimp avocado salad. And why we're doing the shrimp avocado salad first is because then it's done, goes in the fridge with plastic over it, and you're ready for tomorrow, before everything else is ready even. And a reason I have my papers here is because, I don't make them every day, so I've got to look at them. That's a tip. Have your recipe by you. Anyways, so with the shrimp avocado salad, yesterday I went to Costco and I posted about it. I just went for the one item, shrimp. This is 7 ounces of shrimp, which is a single serving for me. However, I'm gonna make 3 recipes today, and my husband and I, we're the only ones coming to our event tomorrow. We'll be sharing all of them. But I'm still making single servings. Hope that makes sense. 7 ounces, okay, in the bowl. The next thing is the avocado. And I want to talk about avocados. Avocados should look like this, dark. If there's a little bit of green on them, it's okay. But, you don't want to like push at the store. But if you just take the wider end and you just barely push your finger, and if it gives a little, it's really ready. If it's really hard, what you do is, and green, it can't be too hard and green for tomorrow, but if it was, you just take it and you either put it in a bag of flour and fold it back up, or even a paper bag, set it on your counter, and it'll be pretty darn close tomorrow. So that's that. Now, the important part is, in my whole lifetime, I was always taught to cut an avocado lengthwise all the way around like this, and then you twisted it apart, and then while holding in your hand, you took the sharp knife, which you didn't point down, and you went whack, and the pit stuck to the knife and you pulled it out. That works. However, I have a dear friend who cooks all the time like I do. Years ago now, there could have been some champagne involved, but she put the knife through her hand. So later I learned, here's what I'm going to show you. If you cut it this way, the opposite of what you've ever been told, I'm going to show you what happens. I hope you can see this. All right, so going down, going through, and you just turn the avocado, you don't have to do anything with the knife, just hold it still. And when it meets the other side, you pull it apart like so. Then I'm going to show you with a different one that I've already got. You just pull it apart like that. Then instead of holding this in the palm of your hand, you can set it on your cutting board. You can sometimes just take your knife and push the pit out. I'm going to try that. Oh, it's twisting in there. That's what it's doing. Okay, that's okay. So we can still whack it, but instead we're going to put it on the cutting board, whack, and pull. And there you go. Now, the pit, if you're making guacamole, keep the pit, after you make the guacamole, put it back in the guacamole and cover it. And your guacamole, it just doesn't turn brown. It's kind of bizarre, but it's true. All right, so done. Now I got to get that off there. Okay, so avocado. I think that if you cut the avocado inside of its own peel, it's just way easier. So I'm going to do that. So I'm just putting the knife in, going down to the flesh, and I'm making pretty good sized pieces. And once that's done, I've got my spoon, and it's going to go in the bowl, but I'm not going to show how I do that. But anyway, you just press the spoon in, pushing away from the flesh, Go down and around. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And voila, and they're already cut and they're going in the bowl. Okay, so I've done that. I'm not going to do the other half because we don't need to do that for this purpose. Now, I recommend that you print your recipes or have an extra phone or whatever you want to do, but you kind of need them by you. So I'm going to look at this one more time here. So we've got our shrimp, our avocado. Okay, and now what we're going to have is our tomatoes. And in this case, I want you to know that a half cup of tomatoes is the serving, but a half cup doesn't mean a half cup. It means 4 ounces weighed. And for every vegetable that you do, you'll end up with more than you think when you weigh it. So we've got that going. Tomato. Cutting the tomato. Instead of our really great chef's knife that I have here, I have this. And if you can see that, it says Ginsu. Remember the TV knives? I don't get rid of much, and I've kept this one little knife, and it's only for purpose of cutting tomatoes. So if you don't have one of these, another steak knife or serrated knife will work. And you just put the tomato down and you saw. You don't rock, you just saw right through it, just like so. And after you're done sawing, which we will be in just a second, and this might be kind of elementary for some people, but for some people it isn't. So I'm just doing it. Anyway, I stack my tomatoes up and I saw through them like this. And then I turn the tomato. I usually turn the cutting board, but when I'm videoing, I can't really do it. And I cut through the other direction. And there you have your tomatoes. Now, if you're not good with a knife or you don't like to cut, I'm just saying, and for that matter, tomatoes are not in season. You could use canned tomatoes and drain the juice off. Whatever, it's all good. Okay, so now we've got our diced tomatoes, and then it says that we need some onion, green onion, and some cilantro. So once we get our tomatoes all sliced, I want to show you my favorite tool, the bench scraper. So scoop and into the bowl. Anyway, I can't live without this. I use it every day. All right, now we're going to talk about cutting the onion and the cilantro. And why we're going to talk about that is because I always have the knife talk. It's just who I am. So a knife, pointed, rounded, and flat. And the purpose of that is so that you can put the point of the knife on the cutting board and rock the knife. I call it rock and roll. Anyways, I'm going to line up the cilantro and the onion, point down. First thing, I'm just going to cut off the little root end of the onion. Now I'm going to put my point down again, and we're going to rock and roll. And I'm never lifting the knife. You don't need to go chop, chop, chop. All that's going to do is cause your food to fly around, and you might cut your finger. So point down, keep rocking, all together. Rock, 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 rock. I could do it like Ginsu style and really super fast, but I just prefer to go at my own pace. Anyway, so we've got our onions and our cilantro done. And all are going into the bowl with the bench scraper. Easy peasy. Okay, that's in the bowl. Okay, now we just have to add a couple more things, and one of them is salt. And I want to just have a little salt talk. So this is kosher salt, and I keep it in a container like this. And what I want to say about kosher salt is the grains are bigger than table salt. And because the grains are bigger than table salt, it doesn't weigh as much. So when you put it into a measuring spoon, you don't get as much sodium as you would if you use the same amount of table salt. Not to mention, kosher salt is just way easier, right? All I have to do is take my little spoon, sprinkle it in my bowl. I know you can't see that, but that's what I'm doing. And that's done. Then pepper, I'm just gonna grind. You know, you can always add more. And then I've got some oil. And here's the deal, when you're on a healthy diet, it's not that you can't have healthy fats. And healthy fats like olive oil, avocados, olives, those are all healthy fats. It's just that you do need to measure. You can't just dump. So I've already got my measure of 1 teaspoon of olive oil, and that's all you need for the whole salad. I mean, really. So now that we've got all that put together, and we're not adding jalapenos, and that's just because my husband won't eat it if I do, I'll be adding that later for myself. So that's done, so that can get wrapped up into the fridge. All right, our next recipe is stuffed portobello mushrooms. Now, they could be stuffed mushrooms, not portobellos, but here's why I believe this recipe was created this way, is because the amount of protein that you need for your nutrition is a lot more than what mushrooms, you know, you'd have to fill, I don't know, 30 mushroom halves in order to do that. Whereas if you're just using the big portobellos, it's easier. So in the portobello stuffed mushrooms, your job today or tomorrow would be to measure out a tablespoon of soy sauce, crush garlic, like a half a teaspoon, a half a garlic, something like that, and a tiny little bit of oil again, a teaspoon. And you put it in a little thing like this, and brush both sides of the portobello mushroom. The recipe says to scoop out all of the gills of the mushroom, the black part. I don't know why we would do that. I mean, it tastes good, and anyway, but you could. I suppose it makes a deeper base, but you don't need to. So brush both sides, put your oven on at 350, put them in a pan that you're going to cook them in tomorrow, because you don't need to clean up twice that way. So sheet pan if you're making a whole bunch of them, because portobellos are big. They shrink when you cook, but you need a big pan. In my case, I'm just making for myself and my husband, so I've got 2 portobello mushrooms. And I've already cooked them for you. Oh, I didn't say, 350 for a half an hour or 400 for 15 minutes. You want them to be soft. And so that's what they look like. Not pretty, but you can see, maybe you can't really see, but they kind of release their juices and they kind of shrink down a little bit. I can kind of show you. They're still firm, but they're not raw. Okay, so that's something you could do today, and you could also stuff them today, plastic over, into the fridge. Okay, so you've got your tomatoes all cut up, right? We did that. And you've weighed out 4 ounces of mozzarella cheese. Now, I've already got this mixed up, but I'm going to show you what 4 ounces of cheese looks like. It's that much. It's a lot, right? The recipe says a half cup, which is 4 ounces. If you tried to put the cheese in this little half cup, you just don't get the same amount of protein, and you don't get the same amount of flavor or anything. So weigh your food. That's really helpful. So now what we do is we just simply put the filling into the portobello mushrooms. Mine are in this little pan because there's only 2. And I'm just gonna divide it up between the 2 of them. And I could have done this ahead of time, but then what would I have to show you, right? Get them all filled in. Get them all filled in. And once you kind of get them filled, you're just gonna kind of tap down a little, not a lot, and that's it. And these are now ready to go in your fridge with plastic. In the fridge with plastic. Tomorrow, you turn on your oven at 350, maybe 10 minutes. Just melt the cheese and you're good. Okay, So that's that second recipe. Now the third one, I'm pretty excited about this one. You know, I guess it's because I love Mexican food so much or whatever, and I don't know. This is such a great solution to not having chips, which I don't have chips now, and I feel so much better. I love chips, but once you stop eating them and you replace your nutrition with other things that are good for you, you feel great and you don't miss them. So anyway, long story short, we're making bell pepper nachos. The recipe says to use a bell pepper, but you want to use the little ones and cut them in half. And then this is exactly 4 ounces of these little guys. So this again is my single serving, but I'm gonna be sharing with my husband. I sprayed my glass pan before I started because I want it ready to go in the oven tomorrow. I don't have to move them from one thing to the next, right? So now we're just gonna fill them. So I filled all of these. And what I want to say is because they're nachos, you know, nachos are usually in a pile and all stuck together. We're going to leave them stuck together when we put the cheese on them because I just think it's more enjoyable to eat them that way. But regarding the filling, so what we had was 5 ounces of beef. It could be turkey. It could be plant-based meat. It could be whatever you want, but 5 ounces of protein. Then you're going to mix that with your 4 ounces of tomatoes. You're also going to have 1 scallion or green onion all chopped up for your filling. And you're going to season your meat. I use Taco Bell taco seasoning. You could use whatever you'd like. You just probably a teaspoon. That's really what the recipe says. Because again, I could eat all of these all by myself and I would have all the nutrition that I need in the one meal. But I'm going to be sharing. So anyways, so now we get to put the cheese on. And then I'm going to have jalapenos on mine. My husband, not so much. He will not even go near it if it has jalapenos. But I personally like to put the jalapenos on top. The recipe says to cut up the jalapenos and mix them in with the meat. You do whatever you want to do. It makes no difference. But now we've got all of our cheese in. And now all we have to do, here, I'll just put 1 on top of one of mine. I'm going to put several on mine. But now just cover it with plastic into the fridge. Tomorrow, your oven's at 350, all ready for your portobellos, or if you don't make those, oven at 350. Stick them in there, set the timer 15 minutes or so, look to see if the cheese is melted, and that's it. And now you've got 3 different items. You cut the portobellos into pieces if you're serving other people or whatever, however you want to do it. But it's easy, it's healthy, and it tastes amazing. And then, if you're a hot sauce person, you can have your hot sauce. I'm just saying. All right, guys. Well, I personally am not going to tell you who I'm rooting for, but I am going to say I can't wait to see the Budweiser Clydesdales. That's always my favorite thing. See ya.